stories we tell ourselves that shape our realities, and it's time for many to have a reality check. Recently, I began meditating twice a day, and if you haven't done it, please do. Oh my goodness. I found it to be extremely beneficial. One of the recent lessons that I took discussed thoughts from a physical and mental aspect. The most fascinating thing to me about a thought is also the most dangerous, and that is how powerful they are. A thought does not need to be true or even rational to make an impact on influencing your physical and mental health. White supremacy as an ideology is a disease within many of our white brothers and sisters, and it's not just confined to white people. Proximity to power is addicted to many. This tumor has spread since the moment the Civil War ended and has rebranded itself from the Confederacy to the Ku Klux Klan to the Democratic Party to the Republican Party to the Christian National Movement to MAGA and many more iterations in between. It is time for us to get the story right that this nation is to ever become great, because it never has been. Amen. America's potential has been slowed, stopped, and literally fought against for centuries by white America's fear of becoming a minority and being treated in the manner that black people have shared, complained, and showed for centuries that these same white Americans refuse to acknowledge exist. It is the root of the reason why you cheer for Katniss Everdeen but vilify Trayvon Martin. We can't remove a tumor or an illness without an examination. And for centuries, the majority of white Americans have refused to examine this American body. Some are willing to die to protect this dying ideology and are willing to drag the rest of the country down with it in order to exist. They choose to ignore the scars of colonization and slavery. They refuse to remove the cancers of ignorance, hatred, misogyny, racism, transphobia, and others through a surgical analysis of critical thinking, because critical thinking is a sin nowadays. I don't know how that happened. Maybe y'all can help me out with that. It's the reason why we continue to sink into this abyss the same way Jack's frozen corpse sunk into the bottom of the ocean during Titanic, and we know there was enough room on that door for Jack. We know. But all joking aside, the problem is many of you aren't doing jack squat outside of today when it comes to fighting this white supremacy. So how do we defeat it? The answer has always been the same: together. But we all have to do the work. Harry Belafonte famously shared a discussion, one of his last with Dr. King before he was killed. It was after a planning meeting, and everyone in the meeting was energized and excited except for Dr. King. When asked what was wrong, Dr. King posited that he was afraid after all the work that he had done regarding integration, that he was integrating his people into a burning house. In Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail written nearly 62 years ago, King confessed then that, quote, "I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderates. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the so-called Negro stumbling block is not the white citizens councilor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is an absence of tension, like your mayor, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, King's words, not mine, and who constantly advises the so-called Negro to wait for a quote-unquote more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than abusive misunderstanding from people of ill will. End quote. Simply put, democracy is a group project. And as your classmates for the last 250 years, an overwhelming majority of black people in this country don't feel as if our partners have been doing their equal share of the work while we receive the lion's share of the detriments. If this is how King felt when he was 33, how do you think he'd feel today at 96? We always talk about what King's mind is and what his ideals were, and some choose to paraphrase it from cherry-picked sentences. Do you honestly believe that if King were here today, he would be satisfied?
No.
Do you feel he would say that we had overcome?
No.
Or do you feel he would ask, we are trying to overcome, why aren't you coming with us? It is an irrefutable fact that the main requirement of true allyship is shared struggle. Change doesn't happen through convenience or without conflict, and it is crucial for each of us to be steadfast and genuine in our pursuit of creating a society that is safe for everyone. But most importantly, you have to be intentional. You cannot half-ass progress. In this day and age, it is paramount to put your energy and your money where your mouth is, and be willing to take money away from businesses, people, and systems that support oppression. The Montgomery bus boycott would not have been successful unless people were willing to sacrifice convenience for change. It is in that spirit that many across this nation have already begun actively boycotting and removing their dollars from social media platforms and brick and mortar businesses they previously frequented. And I ask you today, in the spirit of the Montgomery bus boycott, to join us. Delete your Facebook, Instagram, and Threads accounts. Before you do so, turn off the spot where they can make money off of your ads. Make sure you do that. Make sure you stop going to Walmart. Cancel your Sam's Club membership and exchange it for Costco. Stop, let's tell them. Stop giving money to any business that eliminates DEI programs or supports individuals who support white supremacy. Allyship also means not providing safe harbor for racism or any of the isms, and being here today is part of that. But the real work begins after we have congregated and after these doors close. Stop inviting your racist aunts and uncles over because nobody else wants to go there, or no one else wants to invite them. Understand that the demographics of our society are changing. The ideal of a multicultural nation that is safe for everyone and a true meritocracy terrifies those who prefer a new age apartheid society where white people rule regardless of merit, talent, intelligence, or morality. That thought is one that terrifies individuals like your mayor. You may also have relatives who subscribe to the same ideology, and it is your responsibility to not allow intolerance comfort in your presence. By being here today for this event, whether you know it or not, you have agreed to a covenant that is designed to, in Dr. King's words, quote, upset the cultural homicide, unquote, against Black Americans and other marginalized groups. That work involves having difficult conversations with friends and family members and holding them to task while challenging any forms of thinking and actions which provide safe harbor for overt or passive hatred and violence. The thought of encouraging you to do all this necessary work apparently scares a mayor who chose to be absent from a celebration of justice today in order to celebrate a criminal and the architect of an insurrection. The good news is, and there's always good news. The good news is why my people are still here. Good news is how we survived slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, mass incarceration, the drug war. That is the good news you need to know. And I want you to know that the good news is, just like his term in office, white supremacy's days are numbered. And only if you, my white sisters and brothers, choose to do the hard work. You must choose the sacrifice and understand that if you are in this fight, you are either all the way in or all the way out. There is no more time or space for lukewarm activism. Never forget, it is not the Donald Trumps of the world who are white supremacy's greatest allies. It's the Merrick Garlands. Those who stand by fecklessly and hopelessly, throwing their hands up in defeat, praying someone else does the work they are positioned to do, while saying the defeatist anthem of, it is what it is. If you ever wondered in your life what you would do during the civil rights era of the 60s, welcome, we are here. Your answer to the question, your answer to that question is determined upon what you choose to do now for future generations. Hopefully those future generations will look at us, and when they ask, what did you do? Your actions can be that answer. Maybe they will reap the benefits of a dream long deferred and can simply say to us, thank you for what you've done. But that response must be earned. And our response to these times shall determine forevermore whether or not we earn that lauding from our future generations. As I close, I am reminded of one of my own poems, Open Letter to America, where I ended by simply saying, America, you've got a lot of work to do because my people did enough for free. And none of us are free until all of us are free. So let us free ourselves from this burning house and refuse to limit ourselves anymore by the burden of an ideal that any of us are better than any of us. And if you continue to sit inside of a burning house while convincing yourself that everything is fine, like that dog from that popular meme, that house will continue to cause more damage to all of us than anything those fires in California could ever do. It is up to you to join us in reclaiming the pen, getting the story right, and giving a story that's better for all of us. Thank you for your time, for your efforts. Now,